MCC Island has massive potential to become something great in the future, with it averaging 500 players during peak hours while still being give or take in closed beta, all while only having 4 games to choose from alongside a guaranteed game being Parkour Warriors getting released with open beta, and with another unannounced game being released shortly after, as well as Noxcrew confirming that they're interested in adding games such as Meltdown, survival games, maybe Ace Race, and a bunch of unique ones too. It begs the question as to why Parkour Tag wasn't mentioned in this list. Will it ever get added? And would it actually work? Interested? Let's get started. So for those of you who aren't too clued up on what Parkour Tag is or how it works, essentially in the main MCC tournament, 2 teams of 4 go head to head with 1 seeker from each team chasing 3 runners on the other team. This rotates, every team faces each other 1 time, with the seekers hunting the runners at the same time in each rotation. But how exactly would this work if it even did work on MCC Island? And what are the pros and cons for the game mode working? Well, let's build my best possible outcome. So for starters, let's talk about how the game mode would function. If the way they've done Battle Box on MCCI compared to MCC is anything to go off, it would be 4 teams going head to head, meaning a rotation or 3 games played. However, the issue with this is the fact there would be teams of 4, meaning depending on the system they had for picking a seeker, which I'll get into later, no one on the team misses out on being a seeker. So maybe they could add a 5th team, but then that means they need 22 people to start a game, and if throughout people get annoyed and leave, then the game will end and be ruined for everyone, which tends to happen a lot in 16-player Battle Box. But for the sake of the video, and I guess to essentially build the best possible outcome, let's say it's 5 teams and 4 games played. Now moving on to how the seeker would be chosen. I thought of a few ideas, but then also cons to those ideas, so let's discuss. My first idea is to have a button and the first person to click it seeks. To add to this point, however, it would be that once you've seeked, you don't get to seek again. As much as this idea works, let's say for instance there's someone on the other team who you really want to seek, it's not going to be a case of discussing who seeks when, it'll be whoever can click that button the fastest, if you're solo queuing that is. My other idea is to have it randomized. For instance, the first run is randomized between A, B, C and D. C ends up seeking, then it's only between A, B and D for the next 3 rounds. The only issue with this is someone may not want to seek that round or at all for that matter, but they will be forced into seeking. As well as this, if C seeks first and they only want to seek, then they'll just leave and queue into a new game to seek again. This then leads into the idea that it's randomized no matter what, so your chances stay the same, but the issue here is yes, it keeps people in the game once they've seeked once, but someone can end up seeking 3 times in one game if they're lucky, or if they're unlucky, assuming they don't want to seek. As well as this, like the not wanting to seek that round point, it also applies to the not wanting to run that round. You might know that the other team is full of sweats and would rather seek than run, but unless you're in a party, there's no way to discuss that. MCCI could also add a system where you choose if you want to seek or run by standing in a specific section, so it can be randomized between those who want to seek, but I don't think it would work for those not familiar with the system, and there's no real way to fully communicate that idea. It also just adds too much to the starting of the game and comes with its own complications. So if you're solo queuing, this is where the problem begins. But once again, for the sake of the video, I'm going to decide that the randomized one time for the seeker is the best option. Now let's move on to the fact that Parkour Tag is proven to be a very heavily team-based game. This point is moving away from the seeker issues and now into the runner one. In MCC Parkour Tag, the runners are given an ender pearl, which they can trigger every 10 seconds to see the seeker's location for 3 seconds, which is quite helpful since it outlines the seeker's location. However, it's only really used at the start of the game when there's multiple people alive. When it comes down to a 1v1, running from the seeker and knowing where to go becomes heavily communication based, which, let's be real, is quite hard to type in chat and even read while trying to parkour away. So based on that, there's not really a fix for that, because yeah, they could lower the time from 10 to about 5 seconds, but then does that become too OP? And isn't it still useless if you don't use it? As well as that, it becomes very unbalanced if you're facing a full inner core party. I guess that applies to anything really, it just feels more unbalanced for this game mode, if that makes sense. But for the sake of the video, I've decided that the ender pearl should keep to a 10-second cooldown with knowing the location of the seeker for 3 seconds. So with all the points said, I've come to the conclusion that if MCC Island were ever to add Parkour Tag, the best way would be 5 teams of 4, a randomized seeker selection which only lets someone seek once per game, and for the runners it stays the same where the ender pearl tells you the seeker's location for 3 seconds with a 10-second cooldown. But the real question, will MCC Island ever have Parkour Tag, and why I don't think it will? Well, for starters, all my points are just assumptions. I've looked at the best possible outcome of them adding Parkour Tag, but you could turn around and say those ideas are bad and will never work. For example, while reading the script back, I've realized that 5 teams of 4 means that one team is always not playing. Although it works best with seeker fairness, it also doesn't work gameplay wise, and 6 teams would mean someone gets to double seek. As well as this, I just simply don't feel the points are stable enough to make a good Parkour Tag game mode. Let's be real, would you constantly enjoy solo queuing this if you couldn't choose when you wanted to be a seeker and you run the risk of people constantly leaving? Yeah, they could add a system for bad sportsmanship, but that just adds another thing on the long list of things they need to cater for this game mode. I also just don't feel it would be popular. There's a reason they're releasing all these other games first, since they're more fun and have more more to offer for this what looks to be soon very successful server. And like I said, it would just get stale quick since I guess it's not PvP based. So I'm a little biased, but I just don't feel there's a clean, stable way it would work like how the other 4 games on MCCI are now. I am curious to your thoughts however. If you made it this far, then comment down below if you think it would work, if they should add it, and what your pros and cons would be, as well as if you agree or have counters to my points. If you'd like to know everything you need to know about MCC Island Sky Battle, then be sure to click the video on the screen right now.